Holy crap. Bitcoin just got denied. We have one of the biggest announcements ever in Bitcoin's history happening in the next 48 hours, according to someone very famous and well respected within Bitcoin. We have Donald Trump's son talking about how Bitcoin can be either a nice complement or better than real estate. We have Trump saying that he is very, very supportive of the Bitcoin price. Let's see. He's going to be very focused on the price of Bitcoin. And he talks about how he would like it to move up to a certain level early in his presidency. I want to talk about everything that's going on today. If you don't mind, hit subscribe underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this one. Hit the bell notification so you know right when I post a video, because we are getting to the point where things are a little bit time sensitive. There is big news that you want to know very quickly. Also, there's a link underneath the video to Blofin. They're doing a War of the Whales. There's $1 million in prizes. And I've been trading on Blofin. I like Blofin a good amount. It's one of the places, one of the few exchanges that I trade on, and you can trade hundreds of different cryptocurrencies there. We're working on some different trading competitions as well. So definitely check this out underneath the video, and let's get into it. As you can see, we got pushed down to 94,000 today on Bitcoin, and a lot of alts falling down pretty significantly too. I covered that in one of my recent videos talking about maybe the quantum computing with Google being a cause of this, but we also got rejected by Microsoft. Microsoft shareholders vote against Bitcoin investment proposal, preliminary votes show. So we don't know for certain, but it sounds like, yeah, we're most likely going to get rejected, or Microsoft is rejecting this. This isn't surprising to me. This seemed like a bit of a long shot, but still, just the fact that Microsoft is having to look at Bitcoin, I think is very beneficial. And that shows kind of where we're at. Every big company is having to look at Bitcoin as a strategy. And even if they don't implement it, they most likely will at some point. We know Amazon is going to do something very similar. I think there are going to be some of these major tech companies that do end up buying Bitcoin as time goes on over the next year, 5 years, 10 years. But Microsoft is a bit of a slow mover, so this doesn't surprise me. So they rejected the plan to buy some Bitcoin. However, it seems more and more likely every single day that Trump and that the US government are going to be buying Bitcoin. President Donald Trump is going to be, quote, very focused on the price of Bitcoin. He would love for Bitcoin to hit 150,000 early in his presidency, a top transition source told Axios. So he obviously very much cares for the price of Bitcoin. Now, what kind of influence does he have on Bitcoin's price? Well, he could create a strategic reserve. He could buy Bitcoin, so not just hold the Bitcoin. They could actually go out and create that strategic reserve and buy more Bitcoin, which he kind of left himself open to doing, but he didn't say that necessarily they're going to do that when he gave that speech in Nashville. He said they're going to hold their Bitcoin as the first source of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So yeah, they might buy Bitcoin. Otherwise, he could just make policy so that it's easier for crypto companies to operate. He could try to force the U.S. to loosen monetary policy in general, create more liquidity, which could send up the price of Bitcoin. He could do a few other things too, but those are the main things. I think everyone's thinking that he has to approve the strategic Bitcoin reserve for Bitcoin to go up. And I think there is some of that baked into the price right now for Bitcoin, this thinking that there are going to be multiple nations buying Bitcoin. But there are other things they could do as well that could send up the price of Bitcoin. Take a look at this. Eric Trump, one of Donald Trump's sons, says why Bitcoin is a better investment than real estate. This is as of the last day, and it's really fascinating. Keep in mind, this is the president-elect's son that's talked about this. He talks about why they're into Bitcoin, what's drawn them to Bitcoin.
Much. I spoke with your brother at Nashville, actually, Don Jr., and we were talking, and I was just amazed at how sort of educated you've become. You really seem to have understood the technology a lot. This wasn't just like, oh, people like Bitcoin, I guess we'll be pro-Bitcoin. It seems like you've really done your homework. What has that process been like for you and your family?
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm a bricks and mortars guy. I've spent my entire life walking construction sites, and people always ask, okay, so you build buildings, you build golf courses, you build commercial buildings, you operate these buildings every day. Kind of why the love? Because I think they can hear the real sincerity in our voices, right? Where these aren't sound bites. And if you really look at real estate, it's tangible. You can feel it. It has energy. And when you look at Bitcoin, it's actually very much the same, but it has so many of the counterbalances that might otherwise be considered flaws of real estate. And listen, we're a real estate family. It's what we love. It's what we know. We know it better than anybody. But if you want to talk about a hedge against real estate, I mean, think about something that's immediately liquid.
Yep.
Right? And that's what cryptocurrency is. If I have a hotel, I can spend 5 years, I can build a hotel. If I want to sell that hotel, it could take me 2 years to sell that property. Now, there are a lot of benefits to real estate. There's a lot of leverage benefits to real estate. There's a lot of tax benefits to real estate. But real estate is illiquid. What's a better hedge to real estate than something that's instantaneously, liquid, right? And I mean, what's has more downside protection than something that you can literally fit in a key fob in a ledger in your pocket? You can't move real estate. I can't take Trump Tower on 57th to 5th.
It would be tough, right?
And move that over to London if London happens to be a better market, or I can't move that to Singapore or the UAE where we are right now. So something that can be transported very easily, right? It's digital currency. It doesn't have fees. There's no brokers. There's no bankers. There's no lawyers. There's no title companies. There's no middlemen. There's no risk of fire. There's no risk of floods or tornadoes or hurricanes, right? I mean, there's a lot of downside protections that crypto can have that real estate, being a tangible hard asset, it doesn't have. And so I look at the two in concert. I look at this being an unbelievable hedge to this. I also look at crypto, as I said before, as something that people can get into who might not have our last name, who might not have our balance sheet. I mean,
afford a full building or a house.
Congratulations, 99% of people, and this is no disrespect, they can't go out and build a 70, 80-story building on Fifth Avenue in New York. The entry costs are too high.
100%.
Not to mention, they'll never find the piece of land, they'll never get it entitled, they'll never get it permitted. But they can put into an asset that historically has actually, over the last number of years, has had significant levels of return higher than most real estate. And that's a beautiful thing. And, you take people in developing countries and developing nations, people who otherwise don't have a chance, and crypto actually gives them a chance to invest, a chance to succeed, a chance to maybe get lucky and transform their lives. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's going to be, listen, it's the future. Make no mistake, it's the future. And again, I really believe that the people who embrace it earlier are going to succeed. The people who don't will, as I said before, get left behind.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Bitcoiner, if I've ever heard of one, right? Like, he hits on so many important things. This is a 3-minute video. He hits on 30 different points for why Bitcoin is such a good asset to hold, why it helps so many people, why you can move it across the world. And yeah, I think this is really interesting because obviously if he knows this, he's talking about this to Donald, right? Donald has a good idea for why Bitcoin's so valuable as well. And one thing that he mentions there that I think people aren't even thinking about yet, like there are different levels where people see what's right in front of them. Kind of like if you're in a car, you can see where your headlights are, but what you want to be thinking about is the longer term, right? The fact is, he mentions you can't move your building if London is a better market, but it's in New York. Okay, that is really important. Think about how much value Bitcoin's going to hold if we get to the point where nations are buying it and they're like kind of clamoring to try to get their hands on more. What kind of incentives are they going to give to bring people to their country to spend in Bitcoin? I've said this several times. What if Greece all of a sudden says, hey, if you move here, become a citizen here, you can spend your Bitcoin and you don't have to pay capital gains on it. So what if you bring $1 million worth of Bitcoin there, it goes up to $5 million. You don't necessarily want to pay 15% tax on it, or maybe you're a dual citizen, or you figure out some way that you can spend, and you can actually spend your hard-earned Bitcoin without having to go pay the government. So you're already going to buy it. You might as well buy it in Bitcoin instead of dollars if you don't have any dollars anyways. Let's say you're retired on Bitcoin, right? And then you don't have to pay those fat taxes. So that is going to be something that's really interesting when those types of rules start to get adopted. If they start to get adopted, that's going to provide even more value, and people are going to buy Bitcoin even harder then. Like there's more value there because it's one of the only assets that can appreciate significantly like it has and allow you to have those kinds of tax benefits. So it's going to be fascinating to see like the next level after a strategic Bitcoin reserve, like what happens next. And that's one of those incentives that's going to change the game. So we have that happening. We also have news from Trump. Anyone investing $1 billion in the US will get expedited permits. Okay, this is going to help a lot of big companies. This is going to help the US grow. This is going to help some of the red tape. This is going to help crypto companies. You know, all this stuff is going to help, I think, our returns. At the same time, BlackRock, Fidelity, all these companies are buying up fat stacks of Bitcoin. So I'm not worried about Microsoft voting against the Bitcoin investment. I think we have much bigger things than Microsoft. Of course, it will be a big deal when these tech companies that have tens of billions of dollars of cash flow every single quarter start to buy Bitcoin. But I think we can wait a little bit on that. It's not imperative that that happens right now. And Dennis Porter says it's happening. The most important announcement in Bitcoin is happening in less than 48 hours. The Strategic Bitcoin Reserve announcement will rapidly speed up the timeline for global Bitcoin adoption. History in the making, Bitcoin is winning. I've said this a couple times, but I think what's going to happen here is they're going to announce some kind of legislation for a state to buy Bitcoin. That's my guess. I'm saying my expectations a little bit low. I don't think it's that, you know, some state is buying or some country is buying Bitcoin. I think it's that there's legislation to get them to buy Bitcoin as part of their reserves. But I could be wrong. It could be that there's some nation that Dennis is working with that is actively buying Bitcoin. So be on the lookout for that. Like, anything can happen. Do not get shaken out right now at this point in the market. Again, if you want to trade crypto, if you understand what you're doing, check out the link underneath the video to Blofin. As you can see, we bottomed at about the same price that we wicked down to on the 9th. Which is yesterday, I suppose. We bounced right off the same level. So if you want to trade, there's a link underneath the video. There are also a couple links to CoinW and to BTCC in case you want to try out different exchanges. I like using 3 exchanges at a time just in case there's some kind of liquidity issue or something happens where the site goes down. I like using multiple. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next one.